Find a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to find a spot on the ceiling or the wall slightly above your normal line of sight. A spot that requires just a little effort to focus on. And when you've identified that spot, I want you to focus all of your attention on it. Now, as you stare at that spot, allow your eyes to focus completely on it. Notice all the detail of that spot. Keep looking at that spot. And as you do, you might begin to notice that your eyelids are starting to feel heavy. Your eyelids might blink, or your eyes water slightly, and that's perfectly normal, perfectly fine. Keep focusing on that spot. And as you continue to stare at that spot, your eyelids are becoming heavier and heavier still. You might notice that your eyelids feel as though they want to close right down. With each blink, you feel your eyelids becoming heavier and heavier and heavier still, as though there were tiny little weights attached to your eyelids that are just pulling them down, weighing them down, your eyelids becoming so heavy, so tired that you just really want them to close. And in a moment when you close your eyes, close those eyelids down, or when I count to 3, whichever comes first, you'll allow yourself to drift into a deep and comfortable state of relaxation. 1, your eyelids are so heavy now. 2, they're becoming heavier still. 3, close those eyelids down, close them down completely, relaxing completely. That's good. It feels so good just to have your eyes closed. Now that your eyes are closed, take a deep breath in and breathe out slowly. With each breath you take, you're becoming more and more relaxed, more and more comfortable. And you can begin to let any tension in your body just melt away. From the top of your head, down through your neck and your shoulders, down through your arms and your chest, all the way down to the tips of your toes, just allowing your body to relax. Your body knows how to relax so easily, so gently, just letting go, relaxing completely. Now in hypnosis, in a state of hypnotic trance. And there's nowhere else to be right now. Nothing that needs your attention except this gentle journey inwards, this conversation between parts of yourself that know how to heal, how to grow, how to change, and to begin to recognize what serves you and what doesn't. And as you breathe, notice how the breath finds its own rhythm, its own depth, without hardly any effort from you at all. Your body just breathing by itself, the way it has since the very first moment you were born, and the way that it will continue long after this session ends. And each breath is an anchor, a returning, a gentle wave that reminds you of your presence here. So long as you're breathing, you're actually okay. And you feel the weight of your body as you rest. And the pressure where your back meets support behind you, where your legs rest and your arms have found their place, and that weight of your body is real, solid, trustworthy, and you can let that weight gently increase now as you allow yourself to become heavier and more settled, as though gravity itself is a friend, so that you stopped struggling, you stopped trying, and you just let go, release, as you sink deeper and deeper into this experience. And with each breath out, something releases. With each breath in, something settles. And you're moving now into that space between waking and sleeping, that threshold space where the mind becomes more and more fluid, more and more open to the power of suggestions, that the boundaries between what you thought was fixed and what is actually changeable begin to soften and blur. There's a landscape opening before you now that you don't need to see clearly. You simply need to sense it. You form an impression of it. It could be a path through a forest, or a path along a shoreline, or a vast open field. Whatever appears to you is exactly right for you, and as you move along this path, you become aware that this is a place where you can meet the inhabitants of your own inner world, the inhabitants of your mind. Because you see, there are visitors to the house of your mind. And some of them arrived long ago, when you were quite small and still learning about the world. And these visitors, they told you that they were there to advise you, to keep you safe. Others still arrived during difficult times, during moments of stress or confusion, and they said that they could help you, that they could help you make sense of things. And you believed them, because why wouldn't you? You deferred to older people when you were small. And these voices, these visitors, they seem to know things. They seem to be more certain. And they seem to have your best interests at heart. But here and now, in this deeper awareness, you begin to see them more clearly. There's one particular visitor who arrives usually most mornings, sometimes even before you're fully awake. This one has a voice that's urgent, insistent. They carry with them a long list, and they're always reading from that list, always reminding you of everything that could possibly go wrong, cautioning you about everything that you haven't done, everything that you could possibly worry about. These visitors, these voices speak quickly, with a sense of urgency, breathlessly, as though if they stopped even for a moment, disaster will descend upon you. This visitor wears the clothes of someone very, very busy, very important, and they've convinced you that without them, you'd be unprepared for the day ahead, that you'd be vulnerable, lost even. But watch them carefully now. From this place of deep awareness, you just watch them. And you notice how their hands shake slightly as they talk. Notice how their eyes dart back and forth, never quite resting. This visitor is anxious, is exhausted. And beneath their urgent warnings, there's a small, vulnerable person, perhaps a child you, who learned long, long ago that if they worried enough, predicted enough, planned enough for every eventuality, perhaps they could control the uncontrollable. Perhaps they could keep things together, stop situations from breaking. They could keep themselves okay and free from being hurt. You don't need to send this visitor away. You don't need to argue with them. You simply need to see them clearly, and to recognize them when they turn up each morning, and you can say, I know you. You're the one who thinks worrying is being prepared. You're the one who believes that anxiety is the same as being concerned. And knowing them, recognizing them, you now have a choice. And indeed, you can thank them for their concern, but you tell them that there is another way, that you haven't spent all these years on this earth without learning a few new things, new strategies, new approaches, new ways of addressing things. So you can let these voices off, let them on their way. And then there's another visitor. And this one arrives most often when you're about to try something new, to step into the unfamiliar. And this visitor has a particular gift. They can show you vivid images, so detailed, of every way that you might fail, that things could possibly go wrong. And have a collection of past moments, a catalogue, a whole dossier, carefully curated, where things didn't go as you planned, where you felt the sting of disappointment in the end, the weight of rejection or trouble. And they display these moments like a gallery owner showing you their finest collections. Remember this, they say, and this time, and that time when everything just messed up. Look at how familiar this feeling is. Why would this time be any different? This is what they say. And this visitor dresses like someone in authority, someone who's seen it all before, and the voice is often calm, matter-of-fact, apparently reasonable. And that's what makes them so convincing. They present possible disaster as if it was simply truth, present fear as if it was wise advice, and they present the past as if it was an unchangeable blueprint for the future. But from this place of deeper knowing, you can see something else now. You can see that this visitor arrived during a time in your life when you were hurt by failure. And that hurt got into you, and you decided the safest thing was never to expose yourself to that hurt again, never to try again. It'll just be the same outcome anyway, you thought. And that thought anchored this belief. This visitor thought that they were protecting you from emotional pain, from disappointment, that terrible vulnerability of hope. And they thought that they could convince you that you weren't going to try, that you'd never have to risk feeling vulnerable again. But you don't need to vanish this voice either. You simply need to recognize them, and you say, I see you. You're the one who believes that the past patterns are permanent. You're the one who thinks that protection and prevention are all the same. And seeing them clearly, you can acknowledge their concern while choosing differently. And you can say, thank you for trying that safe strategy. But I'm okay now, and I'm going to do things in a new way, a different way. Now there's a visitor who appears wearing a mask. And it's a mask of somebody, a face of somebody you once knew, or perhaps you might still know them. And they could speak with a voice that sounds like a parent or teacher or some authoritative figure. And this visitor is particularly clever. They've learned to sound so much like that external voice that you've forgotten they're actually inside your head. That you are the one who has given them permission to be here to this day, to speak to you, to influence you. This visitor makes comments about your self-worth, maybe your appearance, even your intelligence, your lovability. They make comparisons, always unfavorably. They have a way of making you feel small, but they do it so smoothly, so automatically, that you might not even notice them doing it. They've become like furniture in your house, in the house of your mind. They're so familiar you've stopped noticing their presence. But here, in this expanded state of awareness, you can see them differently. You can see that this visitor is actually an old recording, a voice you internalized so long ago when you were learning about yourself and the world. You were learning from the outside rather than from the inside. This visitor arrived when Someone else's pain, someone else's limitation, someone else's fear got projected onto you, got imprinted onto you, and you absorbed it. And you began repeating it as though it were your own truth. And with this recognition comes extraordinary freedom. Because this visitor isn't you. This voice isn't your voice. These judgments aren't your judgments. They're echoes, recordings, borrowed narratives that you can now see clearly and choose whether to keep them playing or not. And you can say, I see you now. You're the one who sounds like someone from my past but isn't really them. You're the one who's been actually causing me to worry all this time. And from this place of deep awareness, something begins to change. A realization. You are not any of these visitors. Rather, you are the space, the forum in which they appear. You are the awareness that can notice them, recognize them, indeed understand them. And in that recognition is your freedom. Because once you see these patterns as separate from yourself, you can never unsee them. They're simply visitors to your mind rather than residents, as voices rather than truth. You develop what might be called that inner observer. The part of you that can just step back and watch the parade of thoughts through your mind. The procession of old patterns, old belief. And they arrive as familiar visitors, and you can simply observe them without being swept up in their drama, without believing them, without believing every story they tell you. This inner observer is like a lighthouse keeper, standing in a high tower, watching over the ocean of thoughts and emotions. The storms come, the waves rise, the wind blows, but the lighthouse keeper remains steady, clear, doesn't get involved, is able to see what's happening without being consumed by it. And this lighthouse keeper can see the visitors approaching from a distance and can recognize them by their familiar gait, their familiar attire, their recurring narrative. And with this recognition comes choice. Real choice, not the false choice of trying to suppress thoughts or fight with feelings, but the genuine choice of how to respond, how to relate, how to move forward. So imagine now that you're at a threshold, a doorway, and you're stepping through into a different way of being with your inner experience. And as you step through, you notice that there are new tools available to you, new strategies that feel natural, instinctive, as though you've always known them, but somehow it's simply forgotten. So the first of these strategies, it's so simple, it will surprise you. Space. When you recognize one of these visitors arriving, you can create a space. You take a breath, a single conscious breath, and in that moment you pause, creating a gap between that familiar trigger and the automatic response. And in that gap, you are free. You are the lighthouse keeper. In that gap, you can choose. It's like you're watching clouds stream across the sky. You don't chase these clouds. You don't argue with them. You don't push them in any way. You simply watch them, knowing that the sky, the vast open sky, is your awareness. And that remains unchanged, unthreatened, always present beneath any storm that is moving through. The second strategy is naming. When you recognize a visitor, you can name them, silently or otherwise. You can say, worry is here, the critic is speaking, self-doubt is present. And the simple act of naming creates a distance, creates a separation. It transforms the experience from I am anxious to there is anxiety present. From I'm not good enough to the idea that I'm not good enough is here. And in that shift, that subtle but profound shift, you reclaim your power. The third strategy is curiosity. Instead of struggling or fighting these visitors, instead of believing them or trying to banish them, you become curious about them. You use their existence to your advantage, and you quiz them, you ask them, where did they all come from? And why did they show up when they originally came into existence in your life? What were they trying to do on your behalf? And what now? What do they need in order for them to be satisfied, to go away, to stand down? And this curiosity is gentle, it's compassionate, and it's from a place of interest rather than judgment. And when you engage these old patterns with curiosity rather than resistance, something remarkable happens. They begin to soften, to reveal their underlying fears, to share with you their original purpose and their deep desire to help you, to keep you safe, and indeed survive and thrive. The fourth strategy is choosing your attention. Because while you can't always control which visitors arrive, you can always choose where to place your attention. You can notice the critic speaking and choose to turn your attention to what's actually true in this moment. You can notice the anxiety visitor predicting catastrophe and choose to return your attention to your breath in this present moment. What's real, what's solid right here, right now. This attention is like a flashlight in a darkened room. Whatever you shine it on seems more real, more significant. Whatever you shine it on is what you focus on, and you have the power to aim that flashlight wherever you want. So you could keep it fixed on the visitors in the corners, making them loom large and scary, or you can just simply shine it in somewhere else. Maybe on the doorway of possibilities, of opportunities around you, and the strengths and resources that you actually do possess, and the possibilities that exist alongside problems. So as you rest here in this deep state of awareness, these strategies are integrating into your system, becoming natural, automatic, available. Your subconscious mind, that wise and powerful part of you, is already beginning to recognize these patterns more quickly, to create space more naturally, to name them more easily, to respond with more curiosity, more instinctively. You're beginning to notice that there's a different quality to your inner experience right now. The visitors still arrive, and they may always arrive, but that's okay, that's fine. But they arrive to a host who recognizes them, who isn't fooled by their disguises, a host who can greet them with warmth and curiosity, but who can still make different choices. You're becoming like a skilled gardener who knows that a garden will always have some weeds, always, but has learned to distinguish weeds from flowers, and who knows when to pull those weeds, or when to prune, or when to simply redirect energy and attention towards what they really want to grow. You're learning that you don't have to have perfect thoughts all the time, or to eliminate all negative thinking to have a wonderful life. You simply need to recognize what's growing, choose what you want to nourish, and trust your ability to cultivate what matters to you. And in those moments, they will come. When a visitor is particularly loud, particularly convincing, particularly persistent, you have an anchor. You return to your breath, to the sensations in your body, to this deep knowing that you have access to your today. You can remember that you are not your thoughts. You have thoughts. You are the thinker of thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are the person who experiences feelings. You are not the visitors. You are the space, the forum in which they appear and disappear. And now imagine yourself moving forward through time, seeing yourself in the days and the weeks ahead, moving through your life with this new awareness integrated into your mind. Watch yourself waking up in the morning as that familiar visitor arrives with their long list of worries and you just notice them immediately. Take that conscious breath and you create that space. You might even smile slightly, perhaps recognizing an old friend who means well but doesn't need to have any influence here. You see yourself in another situation that would have once triggered the critic, that critical voice, the need to make comparisons, you and other people, of judgment. And you watch as you notice that voice beginning, recognizing it clearly, and you name it. Then gently, firmly, redirect your attention to what you want. What you want to shine your flashlight on. What's actually important. Watch yourself about to try something new, something that matters to you. Notice as a visitor suddenly shows up and predicts failure. But this time you see them clearly. In fact, you'd been expecting them. And you say, I know you're trying to protect me from disappointment. But then you breathe and you choose. And you're noticing that outcomes are different now. Not because life has changed, but because your relationship with your own inner experience has transformed. You are now responding rather than reacting. You're choosing rather than being chosen. You're directing your energy towards what you really want rather than what you've been defending against, what you feared. And so there is a lightness to you now, a flexibility and an ease, and you're still having that very human experience, still feeling all the feelings, still thinking that wide range of thoughts and emotions that human beings experience, but you're no longer defined by them, limited by them, or controlled by them. You are free, more yourself, more able to move towards what really matters to you. And soon, in a moment, you'll begin your journey back from this deep place, bringing with you everything that you have learned and experienced, everything that you have recognized, everything that you have claimed for yourself. These insights are yours now, woven into the fabric of your subconscious, integrated into your being. They're now available to you automatically, naturally, whenever you need them. And so you might notice in the days ahead that you surprise yourself sometimes at just how quickly you recognize these patterns, how easily you create that space instantly, how naturally you choose differently. And each time you do, you're strengthening new pathways, creating new patterns, becoming more and more skilled in the art of directing your inner experience towards your highest good. And so you can continue now just to listen to the sound of my voice and the music playing in the background. All of these thoughts, all of these ideas are like seeds that have fallen on fertile soil. They become embedded in the soil and start to grow. At first, tiny shoots, Poking above the weight of the clay in the soil above them, they realised that the weight of the soil that they thought had been holding them back was actually providing the fuel, the nutrients, the source, the energy that allowed them to propel their way through and up and out into the daylight. They begin to grow to something wonderful, beautiful, and free.